Chapter 841 Fight. Seeing Zhu Yang's insistence, the crew had no choice but to open the hatch. The space in the lower cabin is not small, but as a warehouse, each room is relatively large. Usually dozens of people live in one room. The light is not very sufficient, and the lights are turned on at night. During the day, there is only a faint light coming through the high windows. As soon as the hatch was opened, the sound immediately attracted everyone's attention. Since the last riot in the lower cabin, Lao Tian has strengthened the management here. Usually, the door will never be opened unless it is time to eat. Therefore, as soon as the door was opened, people in all rooms immediately poked their heads out to check. Zhu Yang and Sun Wenxi walked down the stairs, saying as they walked, "Don't be afraid. We are here to bring you food. Anyone who hasn't eaten today, come quickly." The two had gentle smiles on their faces, just like the Virgin Mary. But the moment they finished speaking, a large number of people rushed over from their respective rooms and hurriedly snatched the food in their hands. There were too many people. Even though they didn't push and shove on purpose, the people in the lower cabin still fought hard for the only 2 servings of food. As a result, Zhu Yang and Sun Wenxi were knocked to the ground. Others didn't care about them, because if they were a step late, there would be no rice left. More and more people came, and Zhu Yang and Sun Wenxi were pushed to the ground. Many feet stepped on them, and they screamed in pain. Fortunately, the crew member who opened the door did not leave at this time. Seeing this scene, he shouted directly, "Stop it, or I will kill you." He pulled the bolt with a click. This familiar sound was like a spring wound on everyone, making them stop their actions immediately and raise their hands. However, a few children squeezed into the crowd because of their small size, fell on the ground, and desperately shoveled the rice that fell on the ground into their mouths. "A bunch of bastards. You want to rebel? Get out of here." The crew member walked down with a gun fiercely, and then quickly helped Zhu Yang and Sun Wenxi up. "I told you, it's dangerous here. They are so hungry that they want to eat people. You two are both people of status. Try not to come to such places in the future." The crew had a smile on their lips. Zhu Yang and Sun Wenxi were already pale with fear from what had just happened. Although it was only a dozen seconds, they were stepped on by countless feet. If it was a little later, they might have been stepped to death. The two of them didn't bother to say polite words and fled from the lower cabin in a panic. The crew showed a vicious expression again, pointed a gun at them, and said, "A bunch of bastards. You don't know how to be grateful for the food I sent you. You deserve to starve to death." The people in the cabin didn't dare to answer and lowered their heads to show fear. The crew snorted coldly, left along the stairs, and then locked the cabin door with a huge chain. When the cabin door was closed, the scramble and shouting in the cabin rang again. Zhu Yang and Sun Wenxi left in a very embarrassed manner. They didn't dare to look up and look around, for fear that someone would see their embarrassment. The two had no choice but to hurry back to Zhu Yang's room. As soon as she entered the room, Sun Wenxi couldn't help but burst into tears. Zhu Yang's skin nerves were activated by the temperature in the room, and she felt severe pain in many places on her body. A closer look revealed that everything was bruised and purple, and there were many shoe prints on her clothes. How could they do this? Zhu Yang gasped in pain and said with grief and anger. Sun Wenxi burst into tears and cried, "They are really miserable. They were still good people when they were on the island. But now they have become like beasts for a little food. If there is enough food, they will definitely not be like this." Zhu Yang looked at her unhappily and was angry. She was almost trampled to death, but she still had the mood to care about others. But on second thought, Sun Wenxi's logic did make some sense. "Why? Was there enough food when you were on the island?" Zhu Yang asked, panting. Sun Wenxi nodded slowly. "Generally, it is the men who go out to find food, and we girls don't go out. And there is—" Her voice stopped abruptly, and her face suddenly became extremely ugly. Needless to say, she must have thought of Yamada Masami. But what should we do next? This is the biggest problem at the moment. Zhu Yang sat on the bed, and she found painkillers and bandages in the medicine box. She simply applied the medicine and bandaged herself. At the same time, She was worried about solving the food problem for the people in the lower cabin. Soon once she hesitated and couldn't explain it. How could she come up with a solution? At this moment, Tommy was awakened by the voices of two people and started crying again. The two had a headache, and soon once she hurried over to coax the child. I don't know what's wrong with Tommy recently. He likes to cry a lot, and his sleep quality is very poor. He wakes up all the time. Oh, maybe all children are like this. The two of them put their minds on taking care of Tommy again, and this matter consumed almost all of their energy. As for the food problem of the passengers in the lower cabin, they temporarily put it aside. In fact, in Zhu Yang's subconscious mind, she felt that even if she didn't pay attention to it for the time being, it wouldn't be a big deal. Anyway, people won't really starve to death if they eat less meals. At this time, in the lower cabin, just now, a fierce battle broke out because of the two boxes of food. At first, it was just a collision and friction caused by snatching. But as they bumped into each other, they got angry and turned into a fight. Many people were beaten with bruises and even bleeding. But when they asked for help from the crew outside, the other party turned a deaf ear. Are you kidding? They were all injured by themselves. How could they ask Dr. Zhou to treat them? Let them suffer from their own mistakes. Everyone returned to their rooms dejectedly and licked each other's wounds. However, many people looked at the deepest room in the cabin. The last group of people to board the ship, the group of stowaways, lived there. At the beginning, they didn't know that there were stowaways on the ship. So they just blamed the problem of not having enough food every day on the harshness of Zhang Yi and other crew members on the ship. But now that the truth is out, they figured out that their food was stolen by thieves. They didn't have enough food because there were parasites in the cabin. The resentment was ignited all of a sudden. Especially when it's time to eat, this emotion will become particularly strong. This is not the first time they have fought today. They started fighting at breakfast and fought again at lunch. Chapter 842 Grouping. In the lower cabin, the restless mood was slowly spreading. When everyone was hungry, they happened to find the parasites who stole their food around them. The mood could not be described in any other way except hatred. It's all the fault of those damn stowaways. If it weren't for them, we could have lived a good life. How could it be like this now, not having enough food and being beaten? It would be better if they hadn't boarded the ship. Come to think of it, it seems that the woman surnamed Zhu deliberately put them on board. Damn, she's also a bitch. It's all her fault that we have suffered so much. Hush, keep your voice down. After all, we still have to eat according to their mood. Don't let anyone hear us, or we will be thrown into the sea to feed the sharks. Although people were angry, they didn't dare to take any further action. After all, there are armed forces such as Zhang Yi in charge. If they dare to start a large-scale fight again, they may be thrown into the sea to feed the sharks. But are they going to endure it like this? They were frustrated and panicked. On the fishermen's side, Luhai, Ronglei, and Yu Gang sat in a corner, hiding themselves in the darkness. Luhai's fierce eyes flashed with a sharp light like a knife in the shadows. After the end of the world, they had killed people long ago, and the fierce aura on their bodies made ordinary people dare not approach. Luhai looked in the direction of the guest room for the smuggling, his eyes gloomy. We must find a way to get rid of these bastards. Otherwise, we will never get the food we deserve. Luhai said coldly. Ronglei and Yu Gang looked at him. Brother, this matter is not easy to handle. We are on the boat here, and we may be punished by the people above if we act at will. Luhai took a deep breath and punched the bedboard hard. I know it too. You don't need to remind me. Luhai was very angry. If possible, he really wanted to fight with that group of people. However, it is very difficult to achieve this goal. The relationship between other passengers on the boat is average. And those stowaways seemed to realize that their situation was not right, but they gathered together and became the most powerful force in the bottom cabin. They're like male elephants without tusks, but they're the most aggressive. Dissatisfaction spread throughout the lower cabin. But no one resented Zhang Yi and the crew. They had a better target, the stowaways. At this time, the cabin door of the room where the stowaways were located was locked tightly and blocked from the inside with debris. Among this group of people, there are people from many countries, but most of them can speak fluent British, and some are proficient in Chinese. There are a total of 22 people. At this time, the atmosphere in the room is extremely solemn. Everyone gathered near a bed in the middle. And in the middle of them, there are 3 men. From their positions, it can be seen that the leader is a man sitting on the bed, with long gray hair, about 50 years old. He is from Marley, a real estate tycoon who started out as a gang named Zago. And the other 2 people next to him, one has a flat head, dark skin, and a figure of more than 1.9 meters. He is a Sonda athlete named Elad. There is also a man who is only about 1.7 meters tall, with wanton hair and brown skin. He is a Thai boxer named Yamet. These 3 people are now the 3 leaders of the Stowaway gang. Since they boarded the ship, they have been secretly forming such a force. It is for the purpose of being discovered one day in the future and having the power to resist. The room was dimly lit, and Zaku was holding a grass root from the mat in his mouth. He was addicted to smoking, but before boarding the ship, everyone went through a strict inspection and weapons, communication equipment, and even tobacco were all confiscated. He could only use this method to kill his addiction. Mr. Zaku, the atmosphere on this ship is not right now. I think those pigs want to fight with us. What should we do? Elrod frowned and asked Zaku with some concern. There are more than 100 people in the lower cabin, and their number is less than 1/5. Now that the identity of the stowaways has been exposed, others must resent them for taking away the food that belongs to them. Once this emotion breaks out and a fight breaks out, they will inevitably be outnumbered. The other stowaways in the cabin also showed worried eyes, fearing that they would follow the footsteps of those Japanese people. Unexpectedly, after hearing this, Zagu raised his eyebrows and looked at Elrod, then laughed. "Why, are you scared?" Zagu asked with a smile, his face full of calmness and composure. As a famous gang leader in Marley, he has seen all kinds of big scenes. He acted low-key before because he didn't want to attract the attention of Jang, and others. But now his identity has been exposed. And Jang also made it clear that he didn't want to care about what was happening in the cabin below. Then, he would not restrain himself anymore. Seeing this, Elrod quickly flattered. "Mr. Zago, what are your plans?" "We will listen to you." A group of fence-sitters had no idea of their own, so they had to follow Zaga's actions. "Yes, Mr. Zago, tell us what we should do. As long as we can survive, we will listen to you." Zaga narrowed his eyes. "Well, from today on, I will let them know who is the real king in this cabin." When it was time to serve dinner in the evening, Xia Changming came over with a rice bucket as usual. Although the living conditions in the lower cabin were the worst, Zhang Yi did not let people treat them as animals. Food was still supplied according to the number of people. The food in each room was strictly separated, more or less according to the number of people. Xia Changming came down, put the food bucket by bucket, and then shouted, "Dinner is ready." At this time, the person in charge of collecting food came over to take the food from their respective rooms. But at this time, everyone heard a sound of footsteps coming from the back of the cabin. Wah-la-la-dash. Everyone in the aisle subconsciously looked over. Then they saw a dark cloud coming quickly towards them. Zaku put his hands in his pockets and walked in front with an expressionless face. His right and left hands, Elrod and Yamet, followed on both sides with fierce faces. At this time, the stowaways had completely disguised themselves, especially the terrifying aura from the gang on Zaku, which frightened many people and made them retreat. Luhai was in charge of getting food in their room. When he saw the appearance of Zaku and others, he had a premonition that the situation was not good. "Why are so many people here to get food?" he asked cautiously. Chapter 843. The Beast and Trap. Luhai just asked a question. Unexpectedly, what he waited for was a fierce knee strike from the Thai boxer Yamet. Although Luhai's physical fitness is good, he was hit so hard by the professional Thai boxer that he bent his body like a shrimp and fell to the ground with a painful groan. Zago came over, picked up a stack of plates, and smashed Luhai's head hard. Bang! Clang, clang, clang. Luhai's head was directly hit and bleeding. He had stars in his eyes. His ears were buzzing. and the whole person was a little faint. Zago did not stop, but continued to smash his head hard. He did not hold back at all, and he was completely in a state of wanting to kill. That kind of fierce action scared everyone present and dared not speak. Rong Lei and Yu Gang heard the noise and ran out. Seeing Luhai being beaten, they cursed and rushed over. As a result, Elrod and Yamek came over and fought with them directly. Although the two fishermen were in good physical condition, they were still far inferior to professional fighters. What's more, the Stowaways had other helpers who came up with them, and their fists and feet rained down on them. Soon the three brothers were beaten with wounds all over their bodies and fell to the ground like dead dogs. You stop fighting. Someone couldn't bear it anymore and came over to dissuade them. If you keep fighting, it will alarm the people above. Hearing this, Zago stopped. He threw the plate in his hand to the ground casually and spat on Luhai's head. Then he put his hands on his waist and said to everyone arrogantly, "From today on, the order in this cabin will be re-established. I have the final say here from now on, and we have to eat the food first every day. Remember, this is the rule." Everyone has been frightened by the atrocities of the Stowaways just now. Although they were very angry, no one wanted to stand up and be the first to speak out at this time. Zago signaled to two of his men, and they immediately walked over greedily, picked 2 barrels of the best food, and took them away. Some people were so excited to see how powerful it was to follow Zago, and they felt as if they also had great power and could control other people in the cabin at will. So he walked over and wanted to take more food. However, Zago gave him a cold look, signaling him not to do so. The man retreated angrily. But today, they have harvested more than twice the usual amount of food, and they can finally have a full meal. Zago stepped over Luhai and walked towards their room arrogantly. There were more than 100 people in other rooms around, and no one dared to stand up and say a word. It was not until the Stowaways disappeared in the corridor that someone looked at the remaining barrels of food. The food was not much, and the Stowaways took away an extra portion at this time, which means that the remaining food is even less. In the past, they all had some kind of tacit understanding and would not snatch these foods. But this time the situation has changed. The quick hand will get it, and the slow hand will get it. No one dares to gamble. I don't know who started it first, and almost everyone in the room rushed to the remaining food. Roaring, wailing, and violence were rampant throughout the corridor. Luhai and his 2 companions were beaten almost unconscious. In the end, it was their fisherman friends who desperately dragged them out of the crowd to prevent them from being trampled to death. The people in other rooms did not dare to fight with the vicious Zaku and others, but instead fought over food. The Stowaway gang. No one expected that today would be so smooth. More than 20 of them intimidated the other 100 people. They watched them pick up the best food and beat people, but they didn't even dare to fart. Zaku sat on the bed, eating his meal, and the others also had a full meal for the first time. Their trust in Zaku grew deeper and deeper, and they strengthened their belief in following Zaku. Elrod came over with a bowl of rice in his hand and complimented Zago. "Mr. Zago, you are so amazing. Just relying on your aura, you scared the others so much that they dared not move." Zago heard this and sneered complacently. "Those people are all sheep. As long as you are cruel enough, they will not have the courage to resist." He raised his fist and said, "To fight, you need aura and brains. No matter how big the flock of sheep is, they dare not resist when they encounter a lion, and they will only flee in all directions. Then they wait for the lion to finish hunting, and they are glad that they are not the prey. Then they forget the danger and continue to eat grass happily." Everyone agreed with it. Maybe they can understand the truth, but how many people can do it? The younger brother, who was going to take more food, asked puzzledly, "Since we have scared them, why don't we take all the food? We also left some for them." Zago looked at the others, some of whom seemed to be thinking about it and seemed to understand Zago's approach. But most people held their stomachs. Obviously, this meal could not make up for the long-term hunger. Hunger made them want more food. Zago explained, "Don't push those guys at the bottom into a dead end. Even people in our gang usually leave a way out for others. Otherwise, Even sheep, after being forced into a desperate situation, who knows what they will do? But he laughed sinisterly and cunningly. Just leave them a little hope of survival, and they won't have the courage to resist me. The people around him showed a look of sudden enlightenment. Mr. Zago, you are really amazing. With you here, we won't have to worry about not having enough food in the future. Fortunately, there is a big man like you to lead us. Zago sat cross-legged on the bed, enjoying the flattery of the people around him. We can't be too careless. At least there are still unstable factors. His eyes slowly looked up, as if through the deck, seeing the middle and upper cabins above. The armed forces above are something we cannot afford to provoke at the moment. Try not to make things too big, and avoid killing people if possible. This way we can reach the other side safely and get a chance to survive. Everything he did was actually a gamble. He was betting that Jang would not care about the minor fights below. Zago was very accurate in judging people. Jang always maintained an indifferent attitude towards these people on the ship. Unless things got out of hand and made Jang feel upset, he would not care about the life and death of the people in the lower cabin. Everything depends on fate. What we can do now is to give it a try. Only by showing enough fierce power can others be afraid. Chapter 844. A New Way of Living. Luhai, Ronglei, and Gang were beaten to a bloody pulp and were dying. The people on the boat felt sorry for them and planned to ask for help and let the doctor on the boat treat them. But they were quickly stopped by others. Are you crazy? If the people above know that there is such a mess here, who will be responsible if something happens? But it was obviously those smugglers who started it first, and we are in the right. In the right? Haha, do you think those people care about our lives? From the beginning, the captain surnamed Jang knew that we were short of food here, so he didn't plan to care. We are lucky that they can take us a ride, so you should stop causing trouble. What if we are thrown off the boat, if we annoy them? The people on the boat firmly disagreed to find a doctor for Luhai and the other two in the spirit of less trouble than more trouble. In addition to the smugglers, most of the people on the boat were Huashu nationals and overseas Chinese. They have the excellent qualities that have been passed down for 5,000 years in Huashu country. They don't care about things that don't concern them, and they will not die if their friends die. After these people's persuasion, the fishermen who originally planned to help Luhai and the other two find a doctor also hesitated. They also knew that the doctor was Zhang Yi's woman. How could such a noble person come to this dirty place to treat a few fishermen? Brothers, it's not that we don't want to help you. We also have difficulties. You can only pray for good luck, hey? Fisherman Huang Deshang sighed helplessly. There are a few people in their room who know a little about emergency treatment methods. They bandage them with cloth. As for the rest, it depends on how God arranges it. Maybe it's God's pity, or maybe the three people are hardworking. After lying down for a night, they all showed signs of improvement. In fact, this is not because they are lucky. It's because Zago was measured when he took action. The old gang members all have a unique skill. It looks like he can take someone's life, but in fact he avoids the vital points. Zago didn't dare to make a big deal. He just wanted to establish his authority. But even so, Luhai suffered a mild concussion and couldn't get out of bed because of the headache. Ronglei and Gang were slightly better than him, but they also felt pain all over their bodies. Seeing that they were not dead, the people around them expressed their concern for them. But there was no other expression. Everyone was even hungrier, and they were too busy to care about others. But at this time, the flame of revenge in Luhai's heart had already burned fiercely, engulfing him completely. I don't know how long I can live. Why should I let you bully me? Looking at the arrogant and domineering gang of stowaways in the lower cabin, Luhai's heart was filled with evil fire. This evil fire was not only directed at them. It was also directed at the group of passengers around who were extremely cowardly and did not know how to unite. Timdi, I came forward to help you seek justice, but you hid behind like turtles. Damn it, I won't forgive you. But he couldn't resist now, because his injuries were still very serious, and he was very hungry and had to eat first. So, he pretended to be very scared and did not dare to continue to confront Zago. That night, It was already late, and the sound of waves hitting the hull outside was so loud that it even covered the snoring in the cabin. Luhai secretly woke up the two brothers. "Come here. I have something to discuss with you." Lei and Jang have been brothers with Luhai for many years. Without Luhai saying a word, they just saw Luhai's scary eyes and knew what he wanted to do. The three of them secretly got up from the bed and ran to the bathroom. "Brother, just say what you want to say. Are you going to deal with those smuggled bastards?" Lei was a bald man with a messy beard and a fierce expression. They had all killed people on Yenlu Island and were very brave. They couldn't stand being beaten by the smugglers before. Luhai said coldly, "These few scoundrels have made us hungry, and now they are shitting on our heads. I can't stand them anymore. I must kill them." Lei was so happy that he almost couldn't hold back his voice. "Okay, I've wanted to kill him for a long time. Damn it, if I don't kill him, I can't get rid of this fire in my heart. I've decided to change my way of life." Jang asked, "How to kill him?" "He has so many people under his command, and we can't beat them at all. Do we have to rely on those soft eggs on the boat?" Luhai's eyes became fierce. "Ha them. Whoever wins, they will help. They are not reliable at all." The two looked puzzled. "What should we do?" Luhai's vicious eyes were like a poisonous snake. The people he hated were the stowaways of Zago, and even more so those passengers who he stood up for but abandoned him. "I have an idea. Listen to me." He lowered his voice and told the two of them his plan. After hearing it, the two of them showed astonishment on their faces. "Is this possible? Do we really have to go this far? Will something go wrong?" Luhai snorted coldly. "If you are not ruthless, you will not be able to gain a stable foothold. They forced me to do this. Damn it, they didn't dare to say a word when we were beaten, so why should we be polite to them now?" The three men were not good people to begin with, and after Luhai said this, the other two immediately made up their minds. "MD, let's do it. It's better to die well than to live in misery." At noon the next day, it was time to distribute meals again. The cabins on the middle and upper decks were calm and peaceful, enjoying their high-quality food. Jang and Wenshi were busy taking care of the children and instead forgot about the things in the lower cabins. Seeing that Tommy kept crying, the two realized that the child might be sick, so they had to find Zhou for help. Zhou checked Tommy and just took a look at his hygiene conditions, and she understood what was going on. Diapers should be changed and washed frequently. Baby skin is very delicate and can be infected with bacteria if you are not careful. Jang and Wenshi looked at each other. After taking care of the children for more than 10 days, they have gradually lost some patience. At the beginning, she could hardly hold back her good temper towards the child. People who have never taken care of a child will not understand the pain. He would always want to be held and would cry loudly when he was hungry, peed, or defecated, and would not get better no matter how much he was persuaded. He would often wake up in the middle of the night, and it was difficult to have a good sleep because of taking care of the child. Jang and Wenshi took turns, and both had dark circles under their eyes. The two were too tired, and they wanted to ignore everything and just let it go. But the trouble was brought on board by Jang, and this self-proclaimed kind woman had to endure all this unless she strangled the child to death until she landed more than a month later. Chapter 845, Fighting with Courage. It's time for dinner. This time, the people from the smuggler gang came out a little later. But no one dared to make a move, but quietly looked at the end of the corridor. After a while, Zago, with a coat on his shoulders and a straw mat root in his mouth, walked slowly towards the side. Behind him, as usual, there was a large group of people from the smuggler gang. Seeing the docile appearance of everyone, Zago was very satisfied. His people, like before, stepped forward and picked up the two best portions of food. Others didn't even have the courage to approach them, but waited for them to leave before grabbing the largest bucket of food. Nowadays, the distribution system has completely become a robbery. With the first person who broke the order, the others also lost their collective morality. This is the broken window effect. Once someone can benefit by breaking the rules will only restrict the weak and incompetent. The weak follow the rules, and the strong create new rules. After Zago left with the smugglers, Luhai winked at the two brothers. They took out a thin object from their arms. That was a dagger made from the tip of a toothbrush. Cleaning items like toothbrushes were not searched strictly at the beginning. After all, if you really want to kill someone, even a pair of socks can be used as a murder weapon. Luhai had been in the detention room before, so he knew how powerful this thing was. The three of them took the lead and walked towards the remaining rice bucket. Seeing this, other people around rushed over to snatch it from them. Luhai grabbed a man in his 40s and inserted the toothbrush into his cheek with his backhand. Puff! The sharp end of the toothbrush pierced his mouth. Although this thing was sharp, it was not as good as a knife after all. Because of this, Luhai had to use more force. It also caused greater damage to the middle-aged man. He screamed in pain. Luhai, however, had a murderous look on his face. He grabbed his neck and punched him twice in the throat. The middle-aged man's neck immediately turned red, and he fell to the ground. Seeing this, the first reaction of other people around was shock. Because in the past, Luhai and the other fishermen got along well with them. It even made people feel that this big and strong man was very righteous. Even before the guys decided to seek justice from Jang, it was Luhai who took the lead. It was such a person who suddenly became fierce and attacked others, which caught everyone off guard. Luhai, what are you doing? Are you crazy? A businessman in the same room saw this and angrily accused him. Luhai turned his head. The toothbrush in his hand was dripping with blood, and the blood was all over his arms and cheeks, looking particularly hideous. From now on, after that group of people take the food, these foods will be under my control. Luhai slowly swept the crowd with the bloody toothbrush in his hand. His two brothers Ronglei and Gang also held the toothbrush, although the tip was not sharp. But no one would doubt that if it stabbed into the neck, it could still take a person's life. Luhai, what are you doing? We are all compatriots. What's the difference between what you do and those smugglers? A man shouted in pain. Luhai cursed rudely. Don't give me that. You grandsons are cheap bones. You deserve to be punished. You just watched me when I was beaten. Now I understand I can't treat you as human beings. Whoever doesn't obey, I will be the first to kill him. The tips of the toothbrushes in the hands of the three people were pointed at angry people one after another. But these guys didn't dare to fight against Zago and others when Luhai took the lead. How could they have the courage to fight against Luhai and the other two at this time? Everyone stepped back subconsciously. They secretly looked around, and they were eager for a hero to stand up and help them defeat Luhai and the other two. However, no one stood up to be a hero, and all chose to be turtles. These people have certain identities. There are experts in a certain scientific field, bosses of large companies, professors of universities, and royal families of small countries. They are of noble status and feel that their lives are more valuable than ordinary people. They are very smart and never stand out to be the first to speak out. But if all these people get together, the final result will only be that everyone will swallow their anger together. At the beginning, the only people who could stand up to help them lead were three fishermen with low education and only a lot of enthusiasm. Seeing these grandsons so cowardly, Luhai couldn't help laughing. See, these damn things are all cowards. Humph, then you just listen to me obediently, and I will choose the food first in the future. In the room of the Stowaway gang, Zago was eating and heard the movement outside. He just had a look on his face. With a mocking smile, they started fighting among themselves so soon. But it's good this way. It would be even better if we could kill a few more people. Anyway, Jang didn't care who lived or died. He was only responsible for providing a fixed amount of food. The more people died, the easier it would be to solve the problem of food supply. Seeing that this group of cowards didn't dare to resist at all, Luhai was very proud in his heart, and at the same time, he also had a strong sense of sadness. There were only three of them. If these people rushed forward, they would stab two people to death at most, and they would definitely be finished. But these people were so smart that no one was willing to take the risk. In this way, the three of them were treated obediently by Luhai, and they didn't even resist and chose to be silent lambs. Lu Dahai curled his lips in disdain, then walked over and picked up the two largest buckets among the remaining buckets. He was going to leave like this, but he still felt unsatisfied. So he turned around and spat into the other buckets. This move made everyone shudder, and their faces turned green. If they eat this meal, wouldn't it be equivalent to eating the saliva of Lu Dahai, the stinky fisherman?
Lu Dahai didn't care what they thought.
He carried two large buckets of rice and returned to their cabin with his two brothers with his head held high. But now, the food in the entire lower cabin has become insufficient. There were originally 8 cabins, and now the food is reduced by half. And there are still about 100 people who haven't eaten. The worst thing is that the remaining buckets of rice have all been spit out by Lu Dahai, who deliberately retaliated against them. Hesitation will lead to defeat. Some people are still struggling whether to eat Lu Dahai's dirty saliva, and some people have decisively rushed over to grab food. What's wrong with saliva? That's also food. People have to eat to survive, otherwise they will starve to death. Between survival and cleanliness, they decisively chose the former. Chapter 846 Recruiting Soldiers. The bottom cabin was in commotion again. The 3 brothers Lu Dahai returned to the cabin with 2 large rice buckets with smiles on their faces and returned to their berths. There were other people in the cabin too. Seeing Lu Dahai and his men monopolizing so much food, some people snorted coldly, expressing their disdain for the robbers. Others swallowed their saliva wildly, and their hunger made them want to rush over and grab a bite of food to eat. However, the 3 brothers' very sharp toothbrushes were still there, and Lu Dahai's toothbrush was still dripping with blood. This made those people calm down. It would be too difficult to snatch food from them. Others did not have the courage. Lu Dahai looked at them and knew what these people were thinking. He sneered repeatedly. Yesterday, he stood up for others, but was beaten all over and almost died. At that time, he had never seen these temporary neighbors help him. Now, he naturally would not share his food with these. Lu Dahai picked up the toothbrush, put it on his tongue, and licked it. The scarlet blood flowed onto the tongue coating and then slid down the tip of the tongue. It looked weird and bloody, which made people shudder. Lao Huang, come and eat together. At this time, Lu Dahai looked at Huang Desheng, a fisherman not far away, and took the initiative to greet him. After they were beaten by Zago and others yesterday, it was Huang Desheng who dragged them back to the cabin. Huang Desheng saw this. He hurried over and said, "Then I won't be polite." Lu Dahai stuffed a white flour bun into Huang Desheng's mouth. Huang Desheng sat on the bed and ate it with big mouthfuls. Although lunch only had buns, porridge with green pepper and potato shreds, but they tasted better than abalone and lobster. Slowly, the stomachs of the other people in the cabin began to growl. They didn't eat well yesterday, and today was even worse. Half of the food was gone. No one got anything to grab, which made them extremely miserable. The 2 fishermen next to him were friends of Huang Desheng, and they were also acquaintances with Lu Dahai and the others. They looked at each other, made a decision, and came to Lu Dahai together. "Brother Lu, can you give us some food too? We will follow you from now on." Lu Dahai raised his head and looked at the flattering smiles on the 2 people's faces. Without saying a word, he took out 4 steaming white flour buns from the rice bucket and stuffed 2 into each person's hand. "Then we are family from now on, come. Let's eat together." The 2 were overjoyed, and after thanking him profusely, they gathered in front of the rice bucket and wolfed down the food. With the precedent of the 2, the other people in the cabin began to slowly gather here. "Lu Dahai, look, can you give us some food too?" said an entrepreneur in his 60s with gray hair. "Humph." Lu Dahai's mouth twisted, and he looked at him coldly and said, "Who do you think you are? Are you worthy of eating my food? What can you do?
Can you fight if I ask you to?
You were watching me when I was beaten, and now you want to come over to eat? You're dreaming." The old entrepreneur trembled, but when he was about to say something else, he saw Lu Dahai's murderous eyes. He was so scared that he dared not say anything more and shrank back timidly. But there are also brave ones. Several young people are very smart. They saw what Huang Desheng's 2 friends did. So they also came to Lu Dahai. "Brother Lu, we want to follow you in the future. These people have been with Lu Dahai for a while, and they know each other well. Lu Dahai glanced at them. Do you dare to fight? The two said decisively, dare. Humph. Lu Dahai looked down on them. These two guys are rich second generations, very smart, and they agreed happily, but in fact, they didn't know what to do when they really needed people. But Lu Dahai did not expose them, but threw a steamed bun to each of them and allowed them to come and eat together. In this way, gradually, 7 or 8 adult men in the cabin gathered and joined Lu Dahai's team. This is the way of life that Lu Dahai wants. Others can be robbers and grab food with fists, and he can do it too. Anyway, most of the people in the cabin are useless sheep. Wouldn't it be a pity for him to be a sheepdog instead of a wolf? Soon, in this way, the number of people under Lu Dahai increased rapidly. Slowly, 2 major forces formed in the cabin. One is the gang of stowaways headed by Zago, and the other is the gang of fishermen led by Lu Dahai. They are called gangs, but in fact they are 2 groups of refugees who rack their brains for food and drink every day. As for the others, those who did not join these 2 teams could only pick up some leftovers when eating, or even had nothing to eat. And do the people above know all this? Of course they know. But they don't care at all. Jang, just told Lao Tian that if those people dared to make a big fuss, they would just start to clean up the mess with fire. So, what is considered a big fuss? Lao Tian asked. Zhang Yi laughed casually and said, it's a big fuss if it disturbs my sleep. Lao Tian immediately understood. Zhang Yi's words were a joke, but it also meant that he didn't care about the people in the lower cabin at all. In other words, Lao Tian can make his own judgment, and Zhang Yi doesn't care whether those people are dead or alive. As for Zhu Yonk and Sun Wanqi, what are these 2 kind-hearted young ladies, angels comparable to the Virgin Mary, doing? They're being tortured by Tommy. Because of their negligence, Tommy has been having a fever and his skin has been infected. After seeking Zhang Yi's opinion, Zhou Kur used medicine on the child. However, the only way to eliminate this problem is for Zhu Yonk and Sun Wanqi to take care of the child more carefully in the future and not make the same mistake again. The 2 were educated by Zhou Kur and felt very guilty. But at the same time, they had the idea of being tired. Children are such a troublesome thing. Both women made up their minds almost at the same time that they would never have children in the future. But they couldn't get rid of the burden they had chosen, so they had to continue to take care of the children. As for the situation in the lower cabin, they had no time to take care of it. Didn't know that it was because of their actions that a large number of casualties occurred in the lower cabin, resulting in a horrible tragedy. 3 days passed quickly. On the sea, such a short time is nothing. Zhang Yi just strolled on the boat every day, paying attention to whether there are any signs of sea beasts nearby. The rest of the time is in the room, studying calligraphy with Zhou Qi. But in the lower cabin, every minute and every second is a fatal torment for many people. Chapter 847 Don't Be Impulsive. The establishment of the group led to a rapid deterioration of the living environment in the lower cabin. Originally, everyone was just short of food, and they were not full every day, but at least they could make a living. Later, they tore their faces apart, and everyone stopped restraining themselves and began to snatch food by force. This naturally led to the survival of the fittest. Older women with insufficient physical strength and younger children were the first to be eliminated from this group of people. Some people even did not get any food for 3 consecutive days. The smugglers' gang and the fishermen's gang controlled most of the food. However, there was still a clear boundary between them. The people in the smugglers' gang did not trust outsiders and held on to their own groups. But Lu Dahai actively absorbed new members. As long as he thought that the force value was enough and could be used in a fight, he would absorb them into his gang. Slowly, the number of his men began to exceed that of the smugglers' gang. This also gave Zago a certain sense of crisis. What he feared most was that the Huashu people in the lower cabin would unite. So he changed his fighting style and decided to have a fight with Lu Dahai and his men. On the 4th day, it was time to distribute food again. This time, Zago and others only sent a few men to collect food. The leader was the Thai boxer Yamet, followed by 2 young men. People in other cabins looked at them through the cracks in the door. Some people had been hungry for several days, Their faces were haggard, their skin was withered, and even their eyes were glowing green. They stared at the three people, fearful, but also with an inexplicable emotion surging. But when the two came to the food, they did not take the two best buckets of food as before. Yamet spoke in a very poor Britannia language and asked two younger brothers to guard the food and not allow anyone to approach. Then he walked to the cabin where the fisherman's gang was. The people of the fisherman's gang blocked the door and stared at him unkindly. Yamet shouted, "Ask your boss to come out. Mr. Zago wants to see him." In the room, after hearing this, Luhai showed a cold smile at the corner of his mouth. Ronglei looked unhappy. "You said you would meet?" Luhai stopped him. "Rong, don't be so impulsive all the time." He sat on the bed, looked at Yamet, and suddenly smiled and said, "Tell Mr. Zaku that I will be there soon." "Then hurry up," Yamet said, turned around and left, but his two younger brothers guarded the food and did not allow anyone to get close. This attitude immediately made many people anxious. What do they mean? Not letting us eat. This is to establish authority. Do they really want to force everyone into a desperate situation? Even the most cowardly people will be angry because of despair in the face of life and death. Luhai took out the sharp toothbrush from under the bed and secretly stuffed it into his sleeve. The other members of the fisherman's gang gathered around. "Brother Luhai, that Zaka must have bad intentions. You can't go over." "Yes, at worst, we can fight them." Luhai did not speak. How powerful are the people around him?
How could he not know?
They shouted loudly, but when the fight really started, most of them would probably be scared to kneel down and beg for mercy. Zago was a real gang member, and he had several very capable characters under him. If it was a head-on fight, these few people alone would definitely not be enough. "It's okay, I'll go talk to him and see what he wants." Luhai walked out of the crowd, and the others naturally followed him. Now that Luhai was here, they could gather together and have a full meal. If something happened to Luhai, they might have to go back to the previous state of not having enough to eat. So naturally, they had to follow Luhai now, hoping that nothing would happen to him. A group of people came to the cabin of the Stowaway gang in a mighty manner. The Stowaways saw this scene and immediately blocked the door. Mr. Zaga said that only Luhai could come in. Ronglei and others were anxious when they heard this. If Luhai went in, he would be alone facing more than 20 people from the Stowaway gang. It would only take a moment to kill him. That won't do. "What are you up to?" Ronglei pointed at the man and shouted angrily. Luhai raised his hand disapprovingly. "Hey, it's okay. Since Mr. Zaga wants to see me, I'll go alone. Don't worry, they won't touch me." A dark tide surged in the depths of Luhai's eyes. Since Luhai said so, it was naturally difficult for others to stop him. The gatekeeper opened the door a crack and let Luhai walk in alone. Then the door closed with a click. Soon as Luhai entered the door, before he could see the situation inside clearly, his legs were kicked hard in the knees. The whole person fell to his knees with a thump. Two big hands came over, grabbed his hair, and tied his hands behind his back, pressing him to the ground. Luhai's nose was bleeding because of the heavy collision with the ground. But he struggled and shouted, "You can't kill me! You can't kill me! Mr. Zago, if you make a big deal, you will suffer. Are you really not afraid of those people above? Don't forget that you are smuggled here. He is a Huashu countryman, like us. If you kill us and make a big deal, guess whether he will side with you or us." In the cabin, Zaga sat on a bench, surrounded by his younger brothers. He looked down coldly at the tanned fisherman in front of him, as indifferent as a lion staring at its prey. Zaga stood up from the bench, then took off the belt on his pants, walked to Luhai, and tied a knot around his neck with the belt. Then the belt was tightened and dragged forward on the ground. Luhai soon fell into the dilemma of suffocation. His face turned red due to congestion, hideous and scary.
"No, don't."
Zago turned a deaf ear and dragged him back and forth on the ground for a long time. He let go of Luhai when he was about to die. Cough, 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 cough. Luhai's eyes rolled back, and he coughed desperately. Zaga stared at him and said coldly, "You guys, You've been in the limelight recently. You have so many people around you. Are you planning to go against me? Zaga's expression was half-smile. He looked at Luhai, and he already had the intention to kill him. If it weren't for Luhai mentioning Jang and others, he really planned to kill this troublemaker today, to prevent his gang from being destroyed by this guy in the future. Ahem, ahem, ahem. We just want to live. Mr. Zago, there is more than enough food for the two of us to survive. I can eat enough every day now. There is no need for me to go against you. No matter who it is, maintaining the status quo is the best approach. Even if you kill me, there will be others who will show up. Haha, so it's useless for you to kill me. On the contrary, it will be in your best interest to keep me and cooperate with you. Chapter 848 Heartfire. Zago squinted his eyes, hesitating whether to kill Luhai. But just as Luhai said, now, they are the boss in this lower cabin with enough food. There is no need to take unnecessary risks. But once a fight really starts, it will attract the attention of the higher-ups. Even if the captain surnamed Jang doesn't care about the life and death of the lower-level people. But after all, he is closer to these Huashi people. If the two gangs have a conflict and the smuggler gang kills the people of Huashi, even if it is just out of human considerations, it is almost self-evident who will side with them. People can be reckless when they have nothing. But after eating, it is not so easy to risk their lives. Zago stared at Luhai. Cooperation? Interesting, come and tell me. How do you plan to cooperate? Luhai took a few deep breaths with difficulty before he calmed himself down. From now on, our two groups will be in charge of the food distribution in the lower cabin. You go first and we will follow. As long as we unite together, no one else can stir up any trouble. By then, everyone will be able to eat and drink well, which is better than being on guard against each other now. In order to dispel Zaga's doubts, Luhai continued, we are all for a bite of food. Who wants to risk their lives? Zago stared at Luhai's eyes. Silence. He did not respond to Luhai's proposal. This silence brought great pressure to people. Luhai's heart was also beating, but he had to pass this level. After a while, the door of the cabin was opened, and Luhai walked out of the room with a calm expression. Lei, Gang, and others hurriedly surrounded him. Seeing that Luhai had a wound on his face, they hurriedly asked him if he was okay. I'm fine, this level is over. Let's go back. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief at this time. In other cabins, those who were watching the excitement felt extremely disappointed. They all wanted Luhai and his group to fight to the death with the Stowaways, and it would be best if all of them died. In this way, the people who bullied them would disappear, and there would be enough food. When Luhai passed by other cabins, he naturally saw the expressions of those people. He could guess what they were thinking, and couldn't help but sneer with sarcasm. After returning, Luhai said to Lei and Gang, I knew that group of people didn't dare to touch me. They have enough food and drink now, and they are most afraid of dying. I can see that Captain Jang is a person with his principles. As long as we don't commit suicide, he won't care about our affairs. But if anyone touches his bottom line and causes trouble for him, he will kill us like killing chickens. Zago doesn't have the courage to kill people here. Someone said happily, this is good. As long as we get along with the group of stowaways in the future, we won't have to worry about food and drink. Luhai glanced at him coldly and said nothing. He, Lei, and Gang had an unusual taste in their eyes. It is not their style to keep things quiet. That day, they were beaten up by Zago and others, and they were almost killed. They will never forget this hatred. They have killed fish all their lives at sea, and their hearts are colder than the knife that kills fish. In the next 2 days, the relationship between the stowaways and the fishermen's gang was as agreed, very harmonious. The stowaways can choose food first, and the fishermen's gang just take 2 portions later. But this makes the food even more scarce for the passengers in other cabins who are already hungry. God knows how they survived these 2 days. Some people even didn't eat a grain of rice for 3 days. Struggling and despair made some people really unbearable. Some people suppressed their inner fear and ran to Luhai, begging him to give them some food. Boss Lu, we didn't help you in the past because we had no conscience. We already know we are wrong. Please show us mercy and give us a way to live. A group of people gathered outside Lu Dahai's cabin, kneeling on the ground and begging bitterly. Lu Dahai sneered and asked, "Why don't you go and beg those stowaways, but come and beg me?" Several people looked at each other and said, "We are compatriots, and they are outsiders." Lu Dahai laughed. "So compatriots are easier to bully, right?" He suddenly pointed at those people and his face changed. "You are just a bunch of cowards who bully others at home. You don't have the courage to fight with them, but you just kneel down and beg me to pity you. But it's too late. I don't sympathize with you at all. Get out of here." Lu Dahai gave an order, and immediately a group of thugs went over to chase them away. The gang cried for their parents because they didn't have enough food and were beaten very miserably, with blood all over the floor. Seeing this, the people in other cabins were all furious. They hated Lu Dahai very much. In contrast, they didn't hate Zago and others, the instigator, so much, because they thought it was justified for outsiders to bully them. But Lu Dahai, like them, is a Huashi countryman, so they think Lu Dahai is a scum and a beast. These people probably forgot that when they were in China, most of the scum they met were their compatriots. And the wealth in their hands was mostly obtained by oppressing and deceiving their compatriots. It is ridiculous to think about blood ties now. In the cabin of the stowaways, Zago saw Lu Dahai asking people to beat up his compatriots, and a mocking smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. They just like to fight among themselves, fight. The deeper the conflict between Lu Dahai and the people in other cabins, the more at ease Zago felt. In this way, the threat of the fisherman's gang to them is much smaller. It was night. Lu Dahai's cabin was pitch black, and there was a little light shining through the porthole, so it was hard to see the real appearance of people. It was just a shadowy figure, and there were many people gathered in the cabin. In the middle of the beds, there were 7 or 8 people sitting on the ground. These people were representatives sent by each cabin. Lu Dahai and his 3 brothers also sat in the middle. Lu Dahai's eyes swept over the faces of the crowd that were not clearly visible, and a pair of sinister eyes exuded a terrifying murderous aura. "How are your cabins now?" Lu Dahai's voice was very low. But after he asked this question, the others could no longer bear it and began to complain. "Brother Lu, everyone in our cabin is almost starving to death. Several women are just one step away from the king of hell. If this goes on, at least half of the people in this cabin will die. We really can't hold on, otherwise we wouldn't come to beg you. We also know that what we did was not right at the beginning. Please give you a way to live." After listening to them, Lu Dahai said coldly, "It's not me who won't give you a way to live. Have you forgotten who we are because of our hungers?" Chapter 849. The Edge of Death. Lu Dahai's words reminded everyone. At the beginning, Jang provided them with sufficient food. It was because Zhu Yunk secretly let in more than 20 illegal immigrants that everyone was not able to eat enough. It was also the group of Zago who took the lead in using violence to occupy a large amount of food. Although Lu Dahai was hated, he was not the culprit. "You mean those people? But they are too powerful. We dare not provoke them." A bald man sighed helplessly. Lu Dahai sneered, "If you can't afford to provoke them, just wait to starve to death." A young man next to him suppressed his voice angrily. "People are almost unable to survive, and they are still afraid of birds. If they hadn't taken our food, everyone would have lived well. Some people were timid, but it's not good if the matter gets out of hand.
People will die.
And there are people in charge above. I'm afraid of something happening, right? It's better to be steady. It's better to have less trouble than more." Someone else cursed. "How can you bear it now? If you bear it any longer, you will lose your life." Lu Dahai said nothing, just watched them talking there. Finally, someone thought of Lu Dahai. "Brother Lu, can you help us make a decision? You are the most capable. As long as we can survive, we will listen to whatever you say." Yes, we listen to Brother Lu." Lu Dahai was waiting for them to say this. He glanced at the crowd and said slowly, "This matter cannot be resolved peacefully. Everyone knows that if there are too many monks and too little porridge, some people will starve to death. If you want to live, you have to make them unable to live." He leaned forward slightly so that he could see the expressions on everyone's faces more carefully. At least we are compatriots, and we have brotherhood. But those people will not be polite to you. It's like I can still discuss with you now. Do you dare to go to Zago? A group of people looked at each other.
How could they have the courage?
A brave man said gloomily, You mean, give them all? He gestured at his neck with his hand. The heartbeats of others became much faster.
Kill.
They were not unfamiliar with this kind of thing, and many people had blood on their hands. It was commonplace on Yenlu Island. But now they were on the Gene Foam, and they had many concerns in their hearts. If things get out of hand, the people above will not let us live. Luhai raised the corner of his mouth. There is a saying that the law does not punish the masses. If it is just one person or two people, they will throw us into the sea. But what if we unite and do it together? In this way, even if the people above want to do it, they will have some concerns. Luhai said this just to appease everyone so that they can be dragged into the water together. He is very courageous, and he must avenge Zaga's beating him. Therefore, even if he has to risk being killed by Zhang Yi, he will do this. You discuss it. Do it or not. Luhai folded his arms and waited for the others' answers. He was calm and looked indifferent. Anyway, even if this group of people retreated, he still had the right to speak about food. On the contrary, the people in other cabins were starving to death, and they couldn't wait. A bunch of people looked at each other, and finally someone took the lead in expressing his opinion. Fuck him. A man slapped his thigh and said fiercely, I don't want to live in fear for a day. The way back is still long. We can't always be cowards. The more we tolerate, the more we won't have enough food. They have food and drink every day. The longer we delay, the more we will suffer. At that time, do we really want to let others control our lives? His words made many people wake up. Now, Zago and others are still afraid, so they only take 2 barrels of food. But if this goes on, they will definitely grab more and more. They understand the greed of human nature better than anyone else, and everyone present is smart. Of course, when considering this issue, everyone subconsciously glanced at Luhai. Zago is this kind of person and Luhai is not the same? But so far, Zago is the person they have the most hope to deal with. Because they can win over Luhai to deal with Zago. Because of their positions, they could not persuade Zaku to deal with Luhai. Let's do it. If we continue to drag it out, we will die. A group of people became determined and decided to fight the Stowaway gang. Brother Lu, when are we going to start? The main force is naturally the fishermen's gang headed by Luhai. Luhai raised his eyelids. Tomorrow is Sunday, and it's the day to eat meat. Zaku will definitely bring people to protect the food. You go back and prepare whatever weapons you have. Wait until I give the signal. Let's go together. At this point, Luhai's eyes suddenly became sinister. When the time comes, whoever dares to leak the news and become a traitor, or who doesn't play tricks when fighting. Luhai, will stab him to death before I die. Luhai said, raising the toothbrush in his hand that he had polished every day, with black blood stains on it, which made people feel scared. No, we're not that kind of people. Whoever doesn't go up at that time will be a grandson. Yes, whoever dares to be a traitor, or hides to pick fruits, I will be the first to not let him go. After the meeting, everyone quietly returned to their cabins. In the night, they woke up the people in the cabin one by one and informed them of tomorrow's action. Be quiet, don't make any noise. Are we going to fight? But how to fight? There's not even a stick here. Wrap the clothes on your hands, twist the socks into a rope, and kill them when the time comes. As long as you can kill people, use all the means. That night, in the thick darkness, the cabins began to use their imaginations to create all kinds of weapons that could be used to kill people. Luhai leaned against the wall, holding his toothbrush in his hand, his eyes open, and he was not sleepy at all. He huddled himself in the corner, which was a very safe position. Even if he suddenly got into a fight with someone, he couldn't ensure that he would not be attacked from behind. He had fought many times and killed people for food on Yenlu Island. But essentially, he didn't think he was a bad person. He just wanted to survive, and he did nothing wrong. From the heart, if he could live a stable life, he would also be willing to help others. This is the innate narrow-mindedness of the people of Ludong. Hating evil as an enemy, killing with pleasure, he even experienced the passion and emotion of his ancestors. The night was as dark as ink, and he was like a quiet bat, waiting quietly in the dark. Chapter 850a Bet, Ad 1. The night passed, and the day came. The morning light on the sea was dim and not very bright. The lower cabin was still dim, but it was barely visible. Jang and Zhou finished their breakfast, and then they went to the deck for a walk. It had been more than 10 days since they set sail, and everything was calm, but Zhang Yi's intuition told him that the fin dragon must be there. It was always quiet before the storm. The terrible and huge deep-sea monster was very smart. It did not attack rashly. Maybe it was waiting for a suitable opportunity. For example, a blizzard came. This was a little troublesome for Zhang Yi. However, he had sufficient confidence in his strength. In a head-on confrontation, the fin dragon was not his opponent. Otherwise, how could he be called the top master in the Jiangnan region? Lao Tian came over with his men and greeted Zhang Yi. "Morning, Mr. Zhang." Zhang Yi glanced at Lao Tian and smiled. "How is the ship recently? Is there any unusual movement?" Lao Tian thought for a while and shook his head. "They are all quite honest. Only the foreigners in the Rockflow group often nag a few words. It doesn't matter. After we get ashore, we will send them to your base and let them step on the generator," Zhang Yi said lightly. Lao Tian smiled and nodded yes. "Oh, by the way, let someone prepare the mop. We have to clean the cabin well today." Lao Tian was stunned for a moment. "We clean it every day, and the cabin is not dirty."
Zhang.
He showed a meaningful smile at the corner of his mouth. He leaned on the railing and looked at the end of the sea and sky in the distance. "It will be useful." Lao Tian didn't know what Zhang Yi wanted to do, but he did it honestly according to the instructions. Zhang Yi and Zhou Ke walked around the boat and planned to go back. "By the way, how is the baby raised by Zhu Yunk recently?" Zhang Yi asked casually. Zhou Ke laughed out loud when she heard it. She shook her head helplessly. "Those two, they are really regretting it now. They are both daughters of officials and are used to a life of luxury. They have always been taken care of by others, so how can they take care of others? Let alone the two daughters. Even ordinary people would have a headache taking care of a 1-year-old child. The last time I went to see a doctor for that child named Tommy, the two of them took such bad care of him. Soon once she washed his diapers while he was crying." Zhang Yi's face showed a happy expression. Although he is a man, he still likes to listen to this kind of gossip occasionally, which feels very interesting. Respect her fate and give up the complex of helping others. Let's wait and see. There is at least 1.5 months before we go back. Guess how long they can hold on. Zhou Ke understood that Zhang Yi would not lend a helping hand to the two of them. He would not agree to other people's help. She thought about it and sighed helplessly. "I think, at most in half a month, they will collapse." Zhang Yi smiled and said, "It won't take that long. I bet they will collapse in a week at most." Zhou Ke opened her eyes wide. "No way? I don't think they have reached that level yet." Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes. "You will know when the time comes." He turned to look at Zhou Ke and said playfully, "How about we make a bet? Let's see who guesses more accurately." Zhou Ke's smart big eyes turned and said confidently, "I still stick to my opinion." "What is the bet, you tell me?" Zhang Yi smiled evilly twice. "If I win, you will?" He leaned close to Zhou Ke's ear and said something. Zhou Ke's eyes widened. "That kind of thing is impossible to do. You have to try everything. You have to believe in your potential." Zhou Ke analyzed it in her mind and felt that she had a better chance of winning. "Let's bet, but if I win, you have to." The specific bets of the two were implied in the book. In short, the two decided on it. On the way back, they ran into Zhu Yunk and Sun Wanqi, who looked haggard. The two of them don't look as delicate as before. You know, when they came, even if the weather was cold, Zhu Yunk insisted on wearing light makeup every day to maintain her image and temperament. But recently, in order to take care of the child, they couldn't sleep well all night. So they always look so tired. Not to mention makeup. I'm afraid they haven't changed their underwear for a long time. But if Fatty Sue was here, he would be more excited. Good morning, Miss Zhu, Miss Sue. Zhou Kut smiled and raised her hand to greet them. The two responded politely when they saw Zhou Kur, but they were a little unhappy when they looked at Zhang Yi. As the captain, Zhang Yi only needs to make a little effort to help them solve all the current problems. But Zhang Yi deliberately seemed to be watching a good show and deliberately didn't help them, which allowed the two young ladies to give him a good face. Zhang Yi didn't care. Seeing them finishing their meals and going back to the room to eat, he suddenly asked, "By the way, have you been to the lower cabin recently?" Zhu Yonk and Su Nuanxi were slightly startled. The two looked puzzled. When did Zhang Yi care about other people's affairs? Zhu Yonk frowned slightly, and she remembered that there was such a thing. Last time, the two of them went to deliver food with good intentions, but they were completely scared by the crazy, hungry people. Since then, the two never dared to show their love again. And because of Tommy's illness, they had no time to take care of him. However, those people would not starve to death, so it shouldn't be a big problem. I haven't been there in the past few days. What's wrong? Is there any problem? Zhu Yonk asked curiously. Zhang Yi spread his hands. It's nothing. Speaking of it, it has nothing to do with me. After all, you are the one you brought on board. Seeing you are so leisurely, you should have solved their food problem. I'm too nosy. Zhu Yonk rolled his eyes at Zhang Yi. Instead of helping me, you just keep mocking me here in a sarcastic way. Mr. Zhang, can't you be more generous? Zhang Yi raised his hands in surrender and said with a smile, Okay, I shouldn't ask. After that, he took Zhou Kut away. Zhu Yonk looked at his back, but vaguely felt that something was wrong. Could it be that something happened to them? Zhu Yonk found the crew and asked about the situation below. The crew shrugged. What could happen to them? They are just fighting for a bite of food. Is there anyone dead? Zhu Yonk was a little worried. There shouldn't be anyone dead. The crew answered casually. If there is a death, it will definitely not be hidden in such a closed environment. The smell is too obvious. Zhu Yonk is relieved. Well, that's good. Chapter 851 Outbreak. Zhu Yonk and Su Nuanxi were on their way back. Su Nuanxi asked Zhu Yonk, Senior, those people in the lower cabin are so pitiful. Have you thought of how to help them? Zhu Yonk's mood became a little irritable. If she had a way, wouldn't she have used it long ago? Let's discuss it with Mr. Zhang later. If not, I'll ask my uncle to come out and talk to Mr. Zhang. She didn't want to find Zhu Zheng for this kind of thing. She mentioned this kind of thing when she reported to Zhu Zheng before. But Zhu Zheng showed complete indifference and criticized Zhu Yonk for acting on her own. After all, he was a ruthless man who decided to keep more than 10 million people out of Blizzard City with a wave of his hand. He didn't take human life seriously at all. But Zhu Yonk had no choice. She didn't have any ability herself, so she could only beg people. If the two ignored her, she would probably hide in the quilt and make a bunch of small pearls. At noon, it was time to eat. Everyone in the lower cabin was waiting for this moment. It's the weekend, and there's stewed meat in today's meal. In the past peaceful times, they wouldn't eat the fat meat at all, but now it's the ultimate delicacy that everyone craves. The crew member who was guarding the door opened the chain, and a beam of light shot into the cabin from above. Xia Changming walked out of the light and put bucket after bucket of food on the floor of the cabin. Since the last incident with Yamada Masami, he has lost his helper and can only do it himself every time. The food that has just been cooked. The newly steamed rice is steaming hot and emitting white smoke. The aroma of stewed meat instantly permeated the entire dark and damp lower cabin because of the power of technology and hard work. There was a gulp and gulp sound of swallowing saliva in the air. I don't know how many pairs of eyes were staring at the food, and their eyes were almost glowing green, like hungry wild dogs. But no one dared to run over to fight for it. They seemed to be waiting for something. Soon, the door of the last room in the cabin opened. Zago, the leader of the smuggler gang, was also attracted by the smell of meat and walked out of the room. 4 or 5 younger brothers followed behind him. The cabin had been obedient to him for a long time, and Luhai showed weakness, which made him relax his guard. When a lion passes by a flock of sheep, Will it consider whether the flock dares to attack it? Zago saw the bucket of stewed meat and couldn't help swallowing several times. He quickened his pace and hurried to the rice bucket. His big black-haired hands didn't care about the heat and directly grabbed a large piece of stewed meat and stuffed it into his mouth. The feeling of the hot fat filling his mouth made him almost tremble with happiness. This feeling of happiness made him unaware of the murderous intent around him. Luhai and others appeared in front of the cabin door. He took out the toothbrush from his sleeve and rushed to Zago quickly. Without shouting or signs, he just pounced on Zago so plainly and used all his strength to stab the tip of his toothbrush into Zago's neck. Things happened too quickly, and both Zago and the younger brothers behind him were attracted by the stew. Puff! The toothbrush pierced directly into Zago's neck, and blood gushed out. Zago's mouth was full of oil, and the sudden pain made him widen his eyes and fall to the ground. But this weapon is not a knife after all, and it only pierced 1/3 of the way, which is not enough to be fatal. Luhai did not hesitate at all, and directly rode on Zago's body, pulled out the toothbrush, and stabbed it again. Zago's mouth was full of fat meat, and he didn't even scream. After struggling for a few times, there was no movement. When he died, his eyes were full of astonishment. He didn't expect that this group of cowardly sheep would actually dare to resist and really have the courage to kill him. Not only Zago was dumbfounded, but the situation of others was not much better. Even the others who agreed to cooperate to overthrow the smuggler gang stared blankly at Luhai with a bloody face. Whoever wins, they will help. If Luhai didn't get rid of Zago cleanly and neatly, they might not have the courage to rush up at the critical moment. As for Zago's brothers, they were not much better. They were all scared silly, and after they came to their senses, their first reaction was to scream and run back. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Luhai laughed, and then roared fiercely. His eyes looked viciously at the people watching in the cabin. At this time, everyone realized that Zago was dead. Although they could not help in times of need, they had the traditional virtue of adding icing on the cake. The members of the fishermen's gang took out their weapons, some sharpened toothbrushes, some used disassembled toilet lids, and some even disassembled a section of bed legs. As long as they could be used to kill people, they used their richest imagination to make the most vicious and cruel weapons in their minds. Kill! Rongley roared and led the charge. Dozens of them rushed forward, and the members of the Stowaway gang could not resist at all, and soon they were all thrown to the ground. Then all kinds of weapons came up. Blood spurted out like it was free. Blood stimulated people's most instinctive ferocity. The little minions were beaten to pieces on the spot, and their heads were no longer human. Luhai walked to the front and shouted, "Kill all those vampires and take back the food that belongs to us." The people of the fishermen's gang rushed in front, and the others followed behind with red eyes. After being bullied for days, the suppressed emotions in their hearts burst out in an instant. On the side of the Stowaway gang, someone had already discovered something was wrong and quickly closed the door tightly. "Mr. Zago is dead. They want to kill us. Quickly block the door. Block it." They quickly threw everything that could block them. But in this lower cabin, Jang, he had cleared most of the dangerous things in order to prevent them from making trouble. In addition to the bed, there was not even a table that could be disassembled. How could a bolt alone stop so many people from coming to kill them? The iron door was only hit twice, and the bolt broke. Luhai held a bloody toothbrush in his hand and just glanced at the stowaways in the room. "Kill." He didn't say any extra nonsense, just roared. The two sides started a bloody melee. The people who were bloodthirsty had only one idea in their minds at this time, that is, to kill all these guys in front of them. After enduring more than 10 days of hunger, the suppressed hatred in their hearts was released in an instant, making them more terrifying than jackals. The people in the Stowaway gang were unwilling to wait for death, and they all tried to find ways to fight back. However, the fishermen's gang and the people in other cabins were better prepared. For this battle, they all had tools to kill people and wore thick clothes. Chapter 852 Panic. Inside the lower cabin, the slaughter began. Toothbrushes were stabbed into the necks and eyes of one person after another, and wooden sticks were hit on the head and body. They didn't have very good killing weapons, so the efficiency was very low. When some people were fighting, they could only use clothes as weapons to strangle each other. This kind of close combat, a group of people entangled and rolling on the floor, was full of the most primitive blood. The people who were bloodthirsty were also shrouded in the fear of death in their hearts. At this time, many people couldn't even tell who was the enemy and who was their comrade. They were not very close to each other, and accidental injuries often occurred because they were not familiar with each other. Wailing and screaming filled the entire lower cabin. Above them, the people of the Yenlu group found something wrong at the first time. The shrill screams, like the devils from hell, kept coming from under the floor. The hideous screams woke up some people who were still sleeping. What's going on? Where does the sound come from? Down below. It's the shouting below. Is this a fight? Many people quickly lay on the floor to listen to the sound below. Soon, they all widened their eyes. Murder. Murder below. The people of the Yenlu group were trembling with fear. Compared with the people in the lower cabin, their living environment is very superior. Every day, both food and heating supplies are sufficient. Over time, they have long lost their cognition of death and chaos. Until this moment, they were called the horror on Yenlu Island. Che Haiching quickly got up from the floor. In order to take credit, he rushed out of the door as soon as possible and then came to the door of the cabin and smashed the door desperately. Murder. Murder below. At this time, most of the crew were still eating, and only a few crew members were patrolling. They had not yet discovered the tragic situation in the lower cabin. However, Che Haiching's shouting attracted their attention. When a crew member heard the 3 words murder, he frowned and walked over. Through the gap in the cabin door, he raised his gun and asked, "What's going on? Why are you shouting?" Che Haiching stared with some fear and said, "There's a murder in the cabin below." At this time, the crew member listened carefully and indeed heard faint screams from below. His face became serious and he immediately returned to the control room. In the control room, the crew member in charge of monitoring was eating while leisurely crossing his legs and watching everything that happened in the cabin. "Is there a fight?" asked the crew member, who came over. As he spoke, he leaned over and looked at the scene in the monitoring screen. However, there was no panic or fear on his face. Instead, he slowly showed a weird smile and then slowly sat down and enjoyed it with the crew member who was guarding the monitoring. Who are the people fighting? Are they the group of stowaways and the fishermen? Isn't it? I said long ago that they would fight sooner or later. It turned out to be true. Hey, it seems that the fishermen have the upper hand. They are solid and not bad. As expected of a man from Ludong, I was worried that he would be killed by those stowaways at first. It's really interesting. I thought that group of stowaways from Nanyang were quite powerful. I didn't expect them to be a bunch of frogs in the well. Quack quack. Do you want to tell Boss Tion? Boss Tion is eating, call him later. It looks like they will have to fight for a while. Why are you in a hurry? The 2 people didn't look anxious at all, just sitting in front of the surveillance video and quietly enjoying it all. In the middle cabin where the Yenlu group is located, surveillance is only installed in public areas such as corridors to give face to Li Zhongyu and others. But the bottom cabin was before the storage area, so there are surveillance in every space. It can be said that in recent times, everything that happened here has been completely controlled by the people on the ship. Maybe in the dark, the details of their plan were not particularly clear. But on this ship, every crew member is an experienced sailor and warrior. Just through some minor details, you can feel that there will be such a large-scale fight sooner or later. No one cares about this fight, because everything is within their expectations.
It can even be said that,
except for Zhu Yonk and Sun Wanqi, who are the most innocent and have no fear of the end of the world, others have long anticipated what will happen today. On the top floor, Zhang Yi and Zhou Qier were wearing pajamas, leisurely enjoying breakfast and watching the program on the big screen TV. Zhu Yonk and Sun Wanqi were awakened by the children and have begun their daily work of coaxing the children. Lao Tian and other sailors were eating breakfast and chatting about gossip to relieve boredom. Occasionally, there would be a live treasure to do a talk show. On the bottom cabin, the shouting of fighting was heartbreaking, which made people shudder after listening to it. Killing like crazy. Everyone was killing like crazy. At the beginning, they could still distinguish their own people from the stowaways. But later, everyone was covered in blood, and there were no obvious signs, so accidental injuries were common. Some people took advantage of the chaos to sneak attack people they didn't like. A man took a bed leg he picked up and smashed it hard on the back of his boss's head. The boss never thought that he was not killed by the stowaways, but by the driver he had always trusted. "I'm sorry. Your wife and I have been together for a long time." The driver looked at his body lying on the ground and said coldly. In order to fear that he didn't die thoroughly enough, the driver did not forget to add a dozen more knives to his head until he was beaten to a bloody mess. Some people just hit the wrong person because they were afraid that their actions would be discovered and they would be held accountable in the future, so they just killed their companions. Later, many people's spirits began to collapse, and they killed anyone they saw. The people of the Yenlu group were most deeply touched by such a tragic situation. Many people lay on the floor and listened to the sound there. Some people covered themselves in quilts and trembled due to excessive fear. "Don't fight here." Haven't the people on the boat taken action to suppress it? They have guns. They must be able to quell the riot, right? But it's been so long, and no gunshots have been heard. Why haven't the people in the upper echelons taken action yet? Li Zhongyu and Zhang Weiwei's room was occupied by them and some children who were protected on the island. They were students who had been brought to Yenlu Island by Li Zhongyu for vacation. Faced with such a hell, Zhang Weiwei gently comforted the children and asked them to cover their ears and not listen. She said to Li Zhongyu, "The fighting has been going on for so long, I don't know how chaotic it is. Why haven't Captain Zhang and the others taken action yet?" At this time, the entrepreneur Ma, when on the bed opposite, was moving his legs to the window, slowly putting on his sneakers on the boat. Perhaps this is the result they want. Chapter 853 The Secret. Li Zhongyu and Zhang Weiwei looked at Ma Wenjing when they heard him speak. Li Zhongyu lowered his eyes and thought for a moment. He agreed with Ma Wenjing's words. Zhang Weiwei asked in confusion, "Mr. Ma, what do you mean by that? They just watch the people below mess around?" Ma Wenjing closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, his eyes were full of compassion. "Our ship is like an isolated island, and supplies are limited. If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Zhang is a very rational person. He controlled the number of people on board to maintain the balance on the ship and avoid a shortage of survival supplies. But he didn't expect that the lady surnamed Zhu would make the decision on her own and add more than 20 people to his burden." He raised a finger. "This is about 12% of the excess. The proportion is very heavy. If we don't find a way to solve it, perhaps no one on our entire ship can survive." Zhang Weiwei is not stupid. She immediately understood the meaning of Ma Wenjing's words. So, they deliberately indulged the killing below to reduce the number of people on the ship? Ma Wenjing smiled slightly. "To be precise, this is called personnel optimization." Zhang Weiwei frowned. She felt that this was a little cruel. But she had also experienced the crisis on Yenlu Island, and she was not so naive and ridiculous. She also understood in her heart that there was no other way to make this choice. But in her heart, she could not help but feel such panic. But at first, the people in the lower cabin were cleared out. If something happens later, will it be our turn? She looked at Li Zhongyu worriedly. This worry is not without reason. Zhang Yi gave people the feeling that he was a ruthless person who could do such a thing. Li Zhongyu came over, held her slightly cold hands, and comforted her. "Don't worry, it won't be like that. We are still very valuable to him." At this point, he paused slightly. "Even if something happens, it won't be our turn." In other words, even if population optimization is carried out, it must start with the other people in the Yenlu group. Zhang Weiwei sighed, but the worry on her brow could not completely disappear. Ma Wenjing also lowered his head and pondered for a moment, and finally shook his head helplessly. He didn't say much, because at this time, he could only choose to leave it to fate. Even if he was a big entrepreneur who was very good at business, He couldn't predict what accidents would happen on this voyage.
Peace is the best.
But who can predict the will of heaven? The worst result is that they all can't survive. They are not the only ones who have such concerns. In other cabins of the Yenlu group, everyone was also frightened by the shrill screams below. Some people said in horror, it's over, they're going to do a big purge. First it's the lower cabins, and soon it will be our turn. Bayamo covered himself with a quilt, trembling, and said, "Oh, my God. I knew this day would come. First it was Mr. Yamada, then the passengers below. Won't it be our turn soon? Damn it, I shouldn't have gotten on the ship if I had known." Xia Yunfan, who was on the upper bunk, had cold sweat on his forehead and muttered, "I knew it would be like this. That's why they are not so kind to take us back. They must be afraid that we will reveal the secret, so they want to kill us all halfway. Damn it, damn it, damn it." He pounded the bed hard, gritted his teeth, and his expression was extremely ferocious. "I said that the people of Huashi country cannot be trusted. If we believe that the Colombian ship will come to rescue us, we just have to wait." Che Haiching sat on the bed, his face also solemn and worried. They have experienced the Doomsday crisis for half a year. Although the situation on Yenlu Island was not as tragic as that in Tianhai City, it still left them with a huge psychological shadow. In addition, this time they were on the ship and drifted on the sea for more than 10 days, which exacerbated their fear. Because on the island, they can choose to escape when they encounter danger. But for them, the gene foam can be a shelter, but it can also become an inescapable prison. In this world without the constraints of laws, as long as Zhang Yi has a slight thought, they can all die without a burial place. But after hearing Xia Yunfan's words, he suddenly discovered something wrong. Che Haiching stood up, walked to Xia Yunfan, looked up at him. "What were you talking about just now? What secrets?" Xia Yunfan was covering his head at this time, and he was going crazy. Che Haiching had to grab his sleeve and question him loudly to make him come back to his senses. Xia Yunfan smiled coldly. "I don't know. But think about it carefully. Yenlu Island is thousands of kilometers away from Huashi country, and the current situation is so difficult. Even Colombia, which has the world's strongest navy, has no time to come to rescue us. Why would they go across the ocean to save us? I know those Huashi people too well. If it's not profitable, they won't do such a thing." Xia Yunfan said this, as if he was not from Huashi country. However, although everyone present had a mocking smile on their lips, they were not surprised in their hearts. Because basically everyone who came out of Huashi country would spare no effort to discredit that country. If not, how can they prove that their choice is correct? Xia Yunfan widened his eyes, and bloodshot filled his pupils. So, they must be plotting something. There must be a big secret among us, especially Li Zhongyu. These words made everyone in the cabin think about it. Secret, you're right, the secret must be with Li Zhongyu and the others. Otherwise, the captain would not be so polite to them, and even for them, he would be willing to bring us foreigners back to the country. Che Haiching's eyes became a little excited. As long as we can grasp the secret, won't we have a bargaining chip to survive? What is the secret? We have been on Yenlu Island for half a year. Don't we still not know about Li Zhongyu and his wife? Think about it quickly, think about it carefully. This may be our trump card to save our lives in the future. Che Haiching looked at everyone and asked them to use their brains as much as possible to recall everything that happened on Yenlu Island. At the beginning, everyone was busy surviving and even fell into desperate situations several times. In that environment, any secret is worthless, and they can't help but reveal it. And at the beginning, the things that no one cared about may now become the key to their survival. Chapter 854. Please ask Miss Zhu to settle the matter. The killing in the lower cabin lasted for more than 2 hours. It was unknown how many people died, but every cabin was covered in blood, and corpses were hanging everywhere in the cabin. It was not until the noise almost disappeared that the crew member in charge of monitoring told Lao Tian about the matter. After hearing this, Lao Tian went to knock on Zhang Yi's door. "Mr. Zhang, the people down there are already—" Lao Tian whispered a few words in Zhang Yi's ear. Zhang Yi's face was expressionless. "I know. He glanced at Zhu Yang's room next to him. Go notify Miss Zhu and let her deal with it. She was the one who put the stowaways on the ship, so, of course, she had to deal with this problem. Zhang Yi had said this a long time ago. In fact, if it wasn't for Zhu Yang's words, Zhang Yi would not have planned to take everyone in the lower cabin with him. Lao Tian nodded knowingly. Zhang Yi returned to the room and smiled strangely at Zhou Kur, who was wearing a silk nightgown. Put on your clothes. I'll take you to see something exciting. Zhou Kur opened her beautiful eyes. See something exciting? On the other side, Lao Tian had already knocked on Zhu Yang's door. Zhu Yang looked a little tired at this moment. She and Sun Wenqi had just coaxed Tommy to sleep on the simple cot. Seeing Lao Tian so early in the morning made Zhu Yang look suspicious. Lao Tian, what's the matter with you coming here so early in the morning? Lao Tian's face was full of solemnity. Miss Zhu, something happened in the lower cabin. The people who boarded the ship first, and the group of people who boarded the ship later started fighting. Zhu Yang frowned immediately. Why are they fighting? It's really troublesome. You can handle this little thing yourself. Don't come to me, Lao Tian said. But this time the matter is a bit big, and many people died. Zhu Yang was shocked. What? Many people died? How could this happen? Lao Tian said casually. It seems that there is not enough food, and after the identities of the stowaways were exposed, it caused dissatisfaction among other people. This kind of thing often happens at sea, and it's not uncommon. Zhu Yang's little face turned pale all of a sudden. Her face, which was originally tired due to poor rest, looked even more vicissitudes at this time. She couldn't help but take a few steps back and almost fainted. Miss Zhu, are you okay? Zhu Yang couldn't believe that people died in the lower cabin because of lack of food. How could someone kill people because of a little food? She couldn't figure it out. And what made her most unacceptable was that this incident might have been caused by her. If someone died, wouldn't she be the culprit? No, that's not the case. Maybe they didn't fight over this issue, or maybe they had conflicts for a long time. Zhu Yang murmured to herself. She was unwilling to accept the fact that she had made such a big mistake. Lao Tian insisted. It's very chaotic over there now. You have to go with me to make a decision. Zhu Yang held her forehead and said, I can't go. You should go to Mr. Zhang for this matter and let him handle it. She didn't want to face such a bad scene. Lao Tian smiled slightly. The captain said that you agreed to let those people get on the ship, so you have to solve their problems. The captain won't care. Zhu Yang couldn't believe her ears. Did he really say that? He is the captain. How can he be so irresponsible? Even Lao Tian, who has a lot of social experience, couldn't help but be stunned when he heard Zhu Yang's words. He really couldn't take this punch with more than 20 years of skill. At this time, Zhang Yi and Zhou Kur changed their clothes and came out of the room. Just heard the conversation between Lao Tian and Zhu Yang. Zhang Yi mocked her. Why, Miss Zhu, have you forgotten what you did and are pushing all the responsibility onto others? Old Tian had to give Zhu Yang some face and didn't dare to speak too bluntly. But Zhang Yi would never indulge her. Zhu Yang was also angry when she heard Zhang Yi mock her. I didn't say I don't care. It's just that I feel a little uncomfortable these 2 days because of taking care of the children. She didn't want to see blood. Zhang Yi didn't let her go at all. You talk as if you are taking care of my child. No one is begging you to do this. If you can only talk big and boast, just admit that you can't do it. I can handle this matter, but it's just a matter of cleaning up the mess. But, in that case, when you encounter something in the future, just shut up quietly. Zhang Yi looked at Zhu Yang with a smile, his eyes meaningful. That is irony and contempt. This is what Zhu Yang can't stand the most. She was so angry that her blood rushed to her head.
Who said I dare not go?
Just go. Who's afraid of who? She slammed the door shut, then pulled Sun Wenqi along, asking her to change her clothes and go over with her. Sun Wenqi had already heard the general idea and asked in fear, will not many people die? Zhu Yang said, it's okay, it's just a small conflict over food. How can anyone in this world risk their lives for a little food? I think they have had a conflict for a long time. The Zhang guy wants to laugh at me all day long. I can't let him look down on me. Zhu Yonk didn't realize the seriousness of the problem at all. Compared to her, Sun Wenshi had experienced some complicated things on Yenlu Island. But now Zhu Yonk said so. She had no way to refuse after all. She was Zhu Yonk's little follower now. The two changed their clothes and walked out of the room. Zhang Yi, Zhou Ke, and Lao Tian had already come to the outside of the cabin, chatting leisurely, waiting for them to come. Zhu Yonk and Sun Wenshi walked to the door, and when they saw Zhang Yi and Zhou Ke, Zhu Yonk's expression was a little unhappy. She thought Zhang Yi was just here to laugh at her. But in fact, it was true. Lao Tian was leading the way for them, and on the way they met crew members holding rifles on guard. Lao Tian walked over and deliberately asked a crew member, "How is the fighting down there?" The crew member glanced at Zhang Yi and Zhu Yonk and said, "A lot of people died, and it was bloody and unbearable to look at." Zhu Yonk and Sun Wenshi's hearts suddenly clicked. Is it that exaggerated? Zhu Yonk subconsciously touched her arm. The development of the situation has exceeded her expectations. She has been busy taking care of Tommy these days and thought that nothing big would happen down there. It's only been a few days. How could it develop into this? Chapter 855. You don't want her uncle to know about this, do you? Zhang Yi said, "Take us over there and have a look. Also, have everyone prepare their weapons. If the situation is not right, just clear the area." Once those people who have been hungry for a long time start to release the demons in their hearts, they may be swallowed by the darkness. Just like a wolf cub who has tasted blood, after going crazy, he will not recognize anyone. Zhang Yi is not afraid, but he does not need to take action himself to deal with those ordinary people. Zhu Yonk's face was pale, and Sun Wenshi was also timid, and some did not dare to move forward. But Zhang Yi urged them from behind. "Let's go. Don't you like walking? Do you want to rest for a while before going over?" Zhu Yonk had no way out at this time, so she had to bite the bullet and said, "Let's go." "What's so scary?" A group of people crossed the level of the rock flow group and walked towards the lower cabin with guns and live ammunition. The people in the rock flow group saw this scene and couldn't help but talk about it again. So many people came, all with guns. "Oh, I don't know how many people died down there. I can smell a strong smell of blood. Too brutal." Bai Mo and others were worried in the room, and everyone tried to recall everything that happened in the past. They hoped to find the secret that would make Zhang Yi and others come to pick them up at the cost of crossing the ocean. Zhang Yi and his companions came to the lower cabin. The door of the cabin was still locked tightly with an iron lock, but the strong smell of blood could be smelled from a long distance. Zhang Yi and his companions had long been accustomed to it, so they did not show any expression. But Zhu Yonk and Sun Wenshi almost wanted to vomit. When they came to the tightened iron door, they saw a stream of creepy black blood seeping out from the crack of the door, flowing all the way to Zhu Yonk's feet. Ah! Zhu Yonk's face became even paler, and she couldn't help but scream and jumped back. Her body began to tremble. At this moment, she had already realized that the development of things had exceeded her expectations. Zhang Yi said coldly, "Open the door." A crew member walked over with a key, opened the heavy iron lock, and then took off the iron chain one by one. All the crew members raised their guns expressionlessly and pointed them at the door. Creaky. The iron door was carefully pushed open by two crew members, and a stronger smell of blood instantly hit them. Zhou Ke was prepared and covered her nose with a wet handkerchief. Zhu Yonk and Sun Wenshi closed their eyes tightly, not having the courage to look at the scene in the cabin. Zhang Yi would not let them go. "Weren't you very saintly at the beginning? Didn't you want to save people even though you didn't have the ability? Come on, take a good look at your masterpiece. Use your eyes to remember that this is the tragedy caused by your incompetent saintly heart. Don't hide behind Miss Zhu. You are the person in charge here. I think you should appreciate it. You still have to make up your mind. Open your eyes." Zhang Yi scolded, and Zhu Yonk and Sun Wenshi opened their eyes in fear. Then they saw a scene that they would never forget. In the long and narrow corridor, there was blood everywhere. The bodies of refugees were lying on the ground, blood was splattered, and the walls and ceiling were all broken snowflakes. Some people's bodies had been smashed into a bloody mess, and it was unclear what their faces looked like. Some people were still squirming on the ground, but they could only breathe in, not out. In such a Shura field, there were actually a few people, covered in blood, ignoring the blood on their hands, eating rice and stew in front of the rice bucket. Now, nearly half of the people in the entire lower cabin have died, and no one is competing with them for food. They can eat a full meal every time. When they found Zhu Yonk and others, they just looked at them numbly, and then smiled knowingly. The spirits of these people have collapsed. Even if they are asked to die now, they will not feel anything. Zhu Yonk covered her head and suddenly fell into a state of collapse, screaming loudly. Clearly a few days ago, these people were alive and well, and they had a meeting together in the warehouse above. But now, many people have become cold corpses on the ground. Is it because of her? Zhu Yonk became more and more collapsed the more she thought about it. If she hadn't insisted on going against Zhang Yi and secretly put the extra people on the ship, perhaps all this would not have happened. If she had cared more about the people below these days and tried to think of a solution, perhaps she could resolve their conflicts. Can Zhang Yi be blamed for this? She wanted to blame Zhang Yi and put all the responsibility on him so that she would feel better. But it is easy for people to deceive others, but the most difficult thing is to deceive themselves. She knew, what does all this have to do with Zhang Yi? Zhang Yi was just a little indifferent, but all the decisions were made by her. It was her stubbornness and self-righteousness that killed these people. Ugh.
Ugh.
Zhu Yonk bent over and vomited heavily. She felt extremely nauseous, so nauseous that she even hated herself. She soon lost her strength and knelt on the ground, vomiting nonstop. She vomited out everything she had eaten in the morning, and then vomited acid. As for Sun Wanqi, she was even worse than her, because the moment she saw the Shura hell, she fainted. Zhang Yi was completely unaware, and the crew members didn't feel much either. They just complained, damn, it's so dirty, we have to spend time cleaning it again. I won't do it, there are still people alive here, let them do it themselves. Zhou Kur was also a person who had seen big scenes. She just frowned slightly and then regained her composure. She squatted down and gently patted Zhu Yonk's back. So there were only two people who were extremely embarrassed at the scene. Zhang Yi looked at Zhu Yonk, who was kneeling on the ground and vomiting, but he didn't sympathize with her at all. He put his hands behind his back and sighed. Oh, how could it become like this? So many people died. Miss Zhu, you don't need to be too sad. This matter can't be blamed on you. They just don't have food to eat. They can starve to death. Why do you have to fight with others for food? Don't worry, I will explain this matter to Zhu Shuai. Don't let him blame you for this matter. Zhu Yonk was even more upset by what Zhang Yi said. When she heard that Zhang Yi was going to report to Zhu Zheng, she was really completely panicked. With Zhu Zheng's personality, if he knew that she had done such a stupid thing, he would definitely be disappointed in her. By then, she would lose the favor of this uncle, and her status in the Zhu family would plummet, not to mention being promoted to the center. Zhang Yi, ugh, don't tell my uncle about this. In a hurry, she also forgot the agreement between the two, and went over to grab Zhang Yi's trouser legs, her eyes full of pleading. Zhang Yi's mouth curled up a sneer. Oh, this matter? Aren't you making it difficult for me? Zhu Shuai is my nominal leader after all. I followed his orders to go out to sea to carry out the mission. If I don't tell him about such a big thing, wouldn't it be very difficult for me to do it? Chapter 856, Good Girlfriend. Everything that happened in the lower cabin completely shattered Zhu Yonk's worthless self-confidence. As Zhu Zheng said when he came, Zhang Yi helped Zhu Yonk realize the cruelty of the end of the world. He looked at the bloody cabin in front of him and was a little surprised. He knew that there would be a fierce fight here, but he didn't expect it to be so tragic. Don't worry, I'm not bored enough to tell the leader. I won't tell Zhu Shuai about this. He smiled and leaned over to look at Zhu Yonk. This is a little secret between the two of us. Zhu Yonk's heart clicked. She seemed to hear the subtext of Zhang Yi's words, I will eat your secret for the rest of my life. But now she has no choice, who let this be the result of her own actions. Zhang Yi didn't go inside to check. The floor was covered with blood, and he didn't want to get himself covered in blood. The follow-up problems will be handled by Miss Zhu herself.
Zhang Yi said lazily.
He and Zhou Kur left here, not intending to get involved at all. Let Zhu Yang take a closer look at what human nature is in the end of the world, so that she can have less worthless pity and sympathy in the future. Lao Tian thought to himself, no wonder Mr. Zhang asked us to prepare the cleaning utensils in advance. It turned out to be for this. He glanced at Zhu Yang, who was kneeling on the ground, already limp and unable to get up. Miss Zhu, do you want to go in and take a look? Zhu Yang shook her head repeatedly. No, I won't go to see. But Mr. Zhang said that the problem here is still waiting for your decision. He lowered his voice and asked, there are still many people alive in the cabin. Although they are survivors, they must have participated in the murder. How do you think about dealing with them? Do you want to? He gestured on his neck. As long as Zhu Yang spoke at this time, he would not hesitate to report to Zhang Yi. After all, there are so many living people, and they will be taken back to Tianhai City in the future as precious resources for labor. It would be a pity to kill them casually. The reason why Lao Tian said this is because he knew that Zhu Yang did not have such courage and was just teasing her deliberately. Zhu Yang shook her head violently. No. Don't kill them. They must have had their own reasons. As she spoke, she suddenly burst into tears, covering her face with her hands, tears flowing down her fingers. Seeing Zhu Yang like this, everyone's face showed contempt and impatience. It was obviously the path you chose, but things turned out like this, and you only know how to cry and pretend to be pitiful here. None of the survivors in Tianhai City have not experienced many life and death tests, and their hearts are harder than iron. They are not used to Zhu Yang's weak and incompetent behavior. Lao Tian asked Zhu Yang 2 more questions, but did not get her answer, which only made her cry louder. This kind of arrogant and self-righteous woman will only choose to cry to evade responsibility when encountering problems. If it weren't for her identity, Lao Tian would have scolded her long ago. But her appearance made people feel helpless. There was no way. Lao Tian had to go to Zhang Yi and ask Zhang Yi what he should do. Hearing Zhu Yang just breaking down and crying, Zhang Yi rubbed his forehead. She's even more fragile than I thought. I thought she would become more mature after this blow. Zhou could have smiled and said, I think she must have grown up. However, for a girl like her, it's already remarkable that she didn't become mentally ill after experiencing such a huge change for the first time. You seem to have given her too much stimulation. Zhang Yi looked at her. Big? Why do I feel that it's not enough? When Zhou Kur handed in her name, what she did was much more horrible than what Zhu Yang had seen.
Zhou
Kur said helplessly, you forgot that I'm a clinical doctor and I deal with corpses a lot on weekdays. Zhang Yi suddenly realized, oh, that's true. It's not a good idea to keep dragging this matter. After all, there are so many corpses below, and it's too smelly to put them in the cabin. After a long time, the whole ship will be filled with the stench of corpses, which will affect the quality of life. Zhang Yi said to Lao Tian, count how many people are still alive. The people from Huaxi will stay and be taken back to Tianhai City. The foreigners will be thrown directly into the sea. Don't let Zhu Yang go. Just leave her there. Let her see it carefully and remember it for a long time. Lao Tian asked with a smile. The ferocity of those people has been aroused now, and keeping them may also be a disaster. Zhang Yi said, people are in desperate situations. Sometimes they have to make some choices in order to survive. He looked at Lao Tian. Don't you have less blood on your hands? Lao Tian smiled awkwardly. Who of the people on their boat doesn't have 2 or 3-digit lives on their hands? Let's do this for now, and pay more attention to their conditions later. If you find anyone with bad intentions, kill them. After all, in the end times, population is also a very precious resource. Let's keep as many as possible. In fact, on the entire ship, too. Zhang Yi's surveillance cameras were everywhere. Zhang Yi knew better than anyone what was happening in the cabin below. He even admired Luhai and the others. They were courageous and ruthless. If they were taken back to Tianhai City, they might become useful people in the future. Lao Tian took the people down. Of course, they would not clean the dirty cabin by themselves. The smell inside was terrible, not just the smell of blood. When a person is dying, feces and urine flow everywhere, and all kinds of yellow and white things are mixed with thick black blood, which makes anyone who smells it dizzy. They had to wear masks and rubber coats on the boat to go in and call out the living people first. As for Zhu Yonk, she thought she was so embarrassed that she wanted to run away quickly. But Lao Tian said, "You are the one in charge. If you leave, we don't know what to do. So we have to ask you to stay and direct our work." Zhu Yonk wanted to refuse, but Lao Tian didn't give her a chance. He brought her a chair and asked her to rest over. If Zhu Yonk insisted on leaving at this time, she would really have lost her last bit of face. She had no choice but to ask someone to wake Sun Wanshi up first. That's right. Not to send the fainted Sun Wanshi back, but to wake her up. Best friends walk together for life. Although they cannot share the joys, they must share the hardships. This problem is easy to solve. Use the cold butt of the gun to stuff it into her neck, and she will wake up instantly. Soon Wanshi opened her eyes with a start. Who am I? Where am I? Zhu Yonk didn't care about her condition. He pulled her to his side to help him build up courage. Soon Wanshi came to her senses, and her face turned green with fear. At the same time, she secretly blamed Zhu Yonk for dragging her into the water. But at this time, Zhu Yonk naturally couldn't let her go. Chapter 857. Restless People, Add 1. Old Tian asked people to clear out all the living people. According to what Zhang Yi said, all the Huaxu people were left behind, and as for the stowaways, they would naturally be helped to ascend to heaven. After the battle, countless people were killed and wounded in the entire lower cabin. There were 75 people still alive, 28 of whom were seriously injured, and the others were slightly injured. Old Tian thought of Zhang Yi's instructions and asked people to gather the wounded in a dry warehouse first, and then waited for Zhang Yi to speak. Whether to throw them away or treat them will be decided later. As for the stowaways, those who died were fine, and those who were not dead were killed. Then the Huaxu people who were slightly injured were called to work as laborers, throwing the corpses into the sea, and then cleaning the entire cabin. Even though these people were already very tired and had to do a lot of work, but they felt more relaxed than ever before, because many people died in the cabin. From now on, they no longer need to worry about the problem of food shortage. So, here in the lower cabin, the clanging of the drips began to get busy. There was a constant stream of people moving in and out, carrying the wounded, carrying the bodies, and cleaning the cabins. All of them had to pass through the middle cabin, where the members of the rock flow group lived. The people of the rock flow group were treated quite well. Compared with the people in the lower cabin, they had a certain degree of freedom. For example, the main door was open during the day, and they could go to the deck to get some fresh air after being allowed. This was mainly because Zhang Yi opened the back door for Li Zhongyu to show his friendship to him. At this time, so many people began to carry the wounded and bodies out in large numbers. Blood dripped all the way. Such a scene was seen by many people in the rock flow group. They were already uneasy, fearing that they would be implicated in this matter. Now seeing a large number of dead bodies in the lower cabin and the crew members were all wearing rubber coats and holding guns in their hands, some people were terrified and suspected that Zhang Yi had people start cleaning the lower cabin. Once the seeds of suspicion are planted, they will begin to take root and sprout quickly. After people exaggerate and speculate at will, it will become uncontrollable. Soon, tense and fearful discussions began in the cabins of the entire rock group. A lot of people died, at least 70 or 80. It's possible that everyone in the lower cabin died. Oh my God, why did this happen? Maybe it's because of fighting for food. They have had this conflict for a long time. Who can stand starving every day? But there shouldn't be so many deaths, right? Could it be a purge by those people above? They didn't plan to take so many people back. Will we end up like them? Panic began to spread in the air. Bai Mo huddled in the corner, his lips trembling with fear. I'm a foreigner. I will definitely die. He won't let me go. He was already scared out of his wits. Xie Yunfan frowned and said silently, Actually, I am from Huashu country. I think we should have something to talk about with him. Che Haiching mocked and scolded. Ah, Shiba Lao Ma, now you are from Huashu country again. Didn't you always mock Huashu country before, saying that there is nothing good about that place? If you dare to abandon us, be careful that I will tell them everything you said during this period. Then I will throw you into the sea to feed the sharks. Xia Yunfan's face changed drastically, and he jumped off the bed in anger and grabbed Che Haiching's collar fiercely. You damn scum. If you dare to report me, I will say that you curse that Jang every day. Let's die together. The burly pickpocket Rudolph laughed and clapped his hands to cheer them. Report together. No one will live. In the cabin, Eisenman, the engineer who has always been the calmest and most silent, couldn't help it. What's the point of doing this? It's meaningless. The most important thing now is to think about how to ensure your survival. Bai Mo looked at Eisenman. Eisenman, do you have any ideas? Eisenman hesitated and fell silent. Seeing this, the others looked at him. They always thought that this engineer was extraordinary. He was very smart and a genius in the computer field. It was said that he joined the largest company in Colombia, Fruit Company, as a software engineer at the age of 21. Che Haicheng and Xia Yunfan were panting after fighting, and at this time they let go of each other tacitly. Xia Yunfan adjusted his tie and asked, Eisenman, what did you think of?
Tell us now.
We all want to live. We are a group, right? Eisenman glanced at him and asked slowly, aren't you a Huashu citizen now? Xia Yunfan smiled disapprovingly and said, my nationality is like Schrodinger's cat. I can change it at any time when I need it. The people around him looked at him with contempt, but Che Haiching laughed. I didn't see you wrong. You are really a real gentleman scum. Xia Yunfan sneered. Same here. Eisenman remained silent. People kept asking. Just say whatever you want to say. We can swear that we won't leak it. Eisenman sneered. He didn't trust anyone. He was especially worried about Che Haiching, the two-faced villain who often reported people around him. Che Haiching also knew that Eisenman suspected him. He walked over, glanced at everyone in the room, and then coughed. I think it's better for us not to fight among ourselves now. After all, the Zhang has never regarded us as his own people. If necessary, he can take our lives at any time. Now, we can only rely on ourselves. Che Haiching wanted to be Zhang Yi's like dog, or even an undercover agent. As long as he could survive, he could give everything he had. Whether it was reporting the members of the Yenlu group around him, or offering his wife, who was still a little bit beautiful. As long as he could survive, there was nothing he couldn't do. However, Zhang Yi did not give him any response, which made Che Haiching feel uneasy. How about this? To show our solidarity, each of us curse Zhang here. This way, no one will have a way out. How about it? Che Haiching still had an idea. At this time, anyone who dared to insult the captain of this ship would be severely punished or even executed. This is a token of loyalty, so that each party would not dare to betray each other. When everyone heard this proposal, they all thought it was feasible. Moreover, they were not from Huashu country, and most of them were opposed to going to Huashu country with Li Zhongyu. After everyone finished discussing, they held a ceremony to curse Zhang Yi on the spot to express their determination. This chapter ends here, but not the story. They solved the food problem, but Miss Zhu and her blood sister, is waiting to face a big trouble ahead. Kindly comment and subscribe if not already.